Rock Hard Greece, ready to do an Instagram live chat once again, this time with Andersen, the keyboard player of Royal Hand, a mighty melodic metalers. So we are waiting for Andre. He will join in right. He will be with us in a couple of seconds, hopefully. Hi, Andre. How are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
As you saw, this time, no mask. Okay?
No mask. Still no mask.
I'm not wearing mask right now.
I can say.
So, great to meet you again in person. We've done a live show together, and it was 3 days or 2 days before I got married. That was
Okay.
so I clearly remember the date. The date, it was May 2010.
All right.
9. So first of all, I have to tell you that I used to have an instrumental of the instrumental of Moving Target as to my radio show as a beginning, as an intro for my radio show. And so Royal Hand, 1997 to 1999. So Royal Hand has been, crucial to my musical taste, I could say.
Thank you.
So I have gathered some questions from fans all over the world, and some questions that I've made on my own, and I have also there's so many things I would like to say to everyone who's watching us right now, that they can send us their questions on the chat right now, and I will make the questions to Andre as soon as they show that. And if possible, you can mention the country that you are watching it from where you're watching us right now, live on Instagram for Rock Hard Greece and Royal Hand. It's always nice to see which countries are watching these videos. So, Andre, it's 15th studio album.
15.
It's the 15th studio album. You started the band in the late 80s, and did you believe that Royal Hand would last for 20-something years, releasing 15 albums?
No. No way. Nobody could believe that. Yeah, we started, the band started in 89, I think. The first incarnation of the band.
Yeah.
The first album came out in 91. So next year will be 30 years. It's unbelievable. It's hard to imagine, but
it's 30 years time. 30 years time, 15 studio albums, and countless live albums.
Yeah.
Because Royal Hand is a great live band, and I must ask you, which of these live albums do you consider your best live album so far? I have one, and I will tell you.
I'm sure you have. I think there's always the first and the last. The first because it was the first one. In 1996, it was the first live album we recorded. And obviously the last one, 2016. That's logical. That's your favorites.
Yeah.
And but we did more than that. We did like following the tradition. We did 96, then 2006, 2016. So I'm already worried
Yeah,
about the 26.
yeah. To tell you the truth, 1996 is one of my best live albums, one of my best live recordings of all time. Counting all
Well,
the Iron
thank you.
Maidens and the Metallicas and everyone, the Judas Priests and all this. I think it has
Yes.
everything that a live show should have. Acoustic sets, playing with the crowd. There's a guy, our friend, that has sent us a question over here from Switzerland saying that he was there in 1996 on your first show in Switzerland. That's
Uh-huh.
fantastic. That's fantastic. And
Okay.
to meet old time fans. So
That's
there's a question from a guy that I can't know the name. It says that your new album is named Dystopia.
Yep.
It's also an album title from Megadeth and Iced Earth in the last few years. Did you think
Uh-huh.
about choosing another name because of that, or did it fit the concept of the album?
No, the concept, the album was inspired by a book by Red Bradbury, Fahrenheit 451. And for obvious reasons, you can't call the album Fahrenheit 451. So every
Bon Jovi did
article,
that. Bon Jovi did that, however.
well, you see, already there, it's been taken. So, so every article I read about the book mentioned it as world's most famous dystopia, blah blah blah, by Ray Bradbury, and so on. And then whatever I went, whatever I read, everybody was mentioning dystopia, so it looked obvious to call it dystopia. So that's exactly what I did. And if Megadeth picked the same thing, I'm pretty sure the album is not about Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, okay.
I mean, that's a little excuse there.
You have invited in this album many of your previous singers. You have called Henrik Brockman.
Yeah, yeah,
I think you have played in a few Evil Masquerade albums too in the last
I did.
in the last few years. You have called Mark Bowles once again.
Yeah.
However, you didn't call John West. Is it you didn't call him? He just couldn't do it?
No, it's the album is almost an hour, and it's only half the story. That's why it's called Dystopia Part 1.
It's called Dystopia Part 1. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and I mean, so there's many characters there, and I still have to save some characters for Part 2. So there's on the first one. I mean, I didn't have a character or the part for John on that one. So, but everybody else got one. I'm very fortunate. I'm surrounded by very, very talented singers, with Mats and Mark Bowles and Kenny Lupke and Henrik, and yeah, it was a pleasure. So I feel very privileged, So when I was kind of casting the story, the album, I couldn't pick those particular people. I mean, it's who I know, and easy to work with, very professional, and on a social level, very nice guys, all of them.
Mm-hmm. Did you think that in the beginning that perhaps DC Cooper could do all these voices? And how did it take the fact that he would be just part of the singer list, let's say?
You see, I mean, DC is still in the lead. I mean, he is a main character.
Mm-hmm.
But I said we did concept albums before, but he was singing all the parts like we did on Paradox, obviously. Yeah. But this one we wanted to try something different, to make it a little bit more theatrical in a way. And in order to do that, so of course we had different characters. So DC is still in the lead, and he is singing the majority of the songs on the album. But
Yeah.
we do have dedicated songs for each character. Most of the time, it's like a duet with DC. Anyway.
Our friend from Krasnodar, Russia, asks, in case you do a tour for the album, do you plan to invite some of the guest vocalists from Dystopia? And of course, if you visit Krasnodar,
that was actually the plan. We were supposed to be on tour right now. The tour was planned for October, November. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it will happen. But yeah, that was a plan. We couldn't be sure, of course, if we can get hold on all of the singers who've been involved, but at least a few.
Yeah.
So we can do it, so we can make the show a little bit more spectacular, more theatrical. That was our idea. So, but not this year. Maybe next year. You never know.
Our friend over here asks, when you started, did you consider yourself the 90s answer to that 80s melodic hard rock sound, while the genre was getting wrongly pushed to side by grunge? Did you consider your answer to the 80s?
Consider yourself the 90s answer to the 80s melodic hard rock sound. Well, we never thought about it, to be honest. And in general, 80s is a different thing for everybody. For somebody, 80s is Bon Jovi, it's Poison, it's Motley Crue, whatever. For me, the 80s were Kansas and Saga and Queensryche and Deep Purple and Ronnie James Dio and Whitesnake, Rush, of course. And, it's so 80s is a different thing to whoever you're talking to. No, we didn't plan it like an answer or something, but to be completely honest, when we started working as a unit, as a Royal Hunt in '89, we were actually writing music which we couldn't buy, which we couldn't buy anywhere, because my classical background and then my love for classic rock, like old bands like Purple, Sabbath, Zeppelin, and so on, and progressive, like Genesis and Yes and Kansas or Russia and whatever, So it's kind of the three parts of our sound. And we couldn't find a band who played something like that with all those elements, So we created ourselves. So it was very egoistical. What we did. We did it for ourselves.
Our friend John asks if you plan to ever release again a solo album. And to tell you the truth, I went to my office today and checked your debut solo album, Changing Skin, and took the booklet and saw that it was inside. There was this snakeskin-like background with red letters on, and I couldn't read anything at all. I just couldn't read anything at all. And say,
what? We're getting older. 20 years ago, I could read that.
I think I could read that too, because I wrote the review back then, and I just got this CD on my hands, and I managed to see who was playing, what was the lyrics and all that stuff.
It's probably hard with that background. I can imagine that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. No, I have at the moment. I have no plans to do any solo albums, and I mean, it might happen. You never know. Yeah. But I mean, for the last year and a half, I've been busy with part one, and probably the upcoming year I'll be concentrating on part two. So I won't have time to do that. It could be nice one day, to work with different people and try different things, but at the moment, not likely.
There's a question: what VST synth do you use in the studio or live?
I don't use VSTs live. I have dedicated keyboards to that. I have different corks. I have a Hammond. I have a digital piano and stuff like that. So it's hardware on it, all of it. In the studio, I'm getting involved with VSTs more and more nowadays. I have like a couple of racks of hardware, keyboard synthesizer stuff like that. I still use them. But yeah, I'm getting into VSTs, you know. But I mean, I don't think it's anything that much different from everybody else. Like East-West, native instruments, and stuff like that. Pretty standard.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing exotic.
Yeah. Another question that has come right now is: have you ever met or talked shop with fellow Danish musicians like Mike Tramp, like King Diamond, Lars Ulrich, or Flemming Rasmussen, the famous producer?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, so especially with Flemming, I met him many times because I was helping another Danish band, Narita.
Yeah.
And so I recorded a couple albums with them. So Flemming was producing them. So I met him a few times. And then, you know, from time to time on some social events, of course. He's a very nice guy. Mike Tramp I met a few times. And of course, all the guys from Pretty Mates. We meet occasionally, you know. So yeah, I'm kind of in touch with most of the guys, not everybody.
Yeah. Another question that has come right now is how did you experience the 90s as a musician and as a fan?
Actually, my experiences are better as a musician than as a fan. Because I've always been buying albums, always. And then by that time, the vinyls disappeared and there was only CDs left. And then the music, I mean, obviously, there was some great music created in the 90s, obviously. So you can find it, you know, at any time. But it wasn't as much as previously. So as a fan, not so good. As a musician, it was great. I mean, we were just like on the way up at the time. You know, we started in 91. Already by 93, we went to Japan for a first time. In 95, 96, we had like the first European tour. We went to the States, toured there. So it was great times for us in that sense. But in general, for our kind of music, it wasn't the best time, obviously.
However, at this time, the mid-90s, the end of 90s, there were when you were big in Japan, then you were really big, and I think that Royal Hand enjoyed a status in Japan that was kind of godlike status. Is that so, or is it my imagination?
Yes, I wouldn't say that. I mean, if we're talking about like huge names in Japan, it's probably somebody like Mr. Big or Malmsteen, by the way. He was huge in Japan at the time.
Yeah.
At least the bands I know. So, but yeah, so we had quite a following there, and we still have. But in general, the whole music industry changed so much with all the streamings and stuff like that. So you're not. It's not the same. It's not the same as it used to be. Not because it's better, it's worse, but it's just different. And of course, the scene, the hard rock, whatever you call heavy metal, whatever you'll call it, you know, the scene got smaller.
Yeah.
And it shows also in Japan, of course.
For the people that are asking for live shows, we haven't mentioned anything about live shows and forthcoming tours, because I think that no one can predict when these will happen.
No.
I think that even
Nobody
the bands
can. I mean,
that
as I said, the album was actually Dystopia was supposed to come up in August, and we're supposed to be on tour in October, November, basically now. And when we can when we can see, I mean, it's not happening. So it dragged a little bit. So we pushed the album back, still hoping it will be possible to book shows, because the ultimate situation, of course, is when you can put an album out in a month or two, you can go on tour. So we're still hoping it will be possible. And then I saw we already were in October, November, and still the situation was dire. So we said, okay, we're putting an album now in December, and we'll see what's going to happen.
Yeah. And do you have the second part of Dystopia ready to be recorded? Is it
No, it's not ready to be recorded, but I'm working on it. So I mean, obviously, when you started working on this concept, I had ideas for an entire piece, of course. But as I concentrated on the first part and had only kind of like skeletons for the second one. And now when I have time now, this album, the first part is out, so I can concentrate on the second one. So I don't know how long it will take, when it will be out, but the ideal situation will, of course, be if we can put the part 2 next year, by fall, winter next year. That will be excellent.
Yeah, and my idea about that was, if in case that you cannot tour until next fall, which is the most probable situation that we will face, is that you will have released Dystopia's both parts, and perhaps do a bigger production, a bigger show, a bigger tour, and play both both parts.
Let's see how much of the live scene we'll have back in 2 years.
Let's see which venues will be open, so that you can play there.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Because it's a problem.
Good question.
I
which festivals will still be around, which venues will be open. We don't know anything at the moment. The only thing I hear at the moment is this place is closing, another place is closing, this promoter is closing. I mean, nothing positive at the moment. But we'll see. I mean, so something is going to come back, of course, in one way or another. So we'll see.
I should ask again for all these people that are sending us messages and saying hello, to mention their countries. There are people from Bolivia, people from Egypt, there are fans. Okay. It's always great to see that you have fans in many exotic, different places in the world.
I wish we can go there.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to play music of Eddie Van Halen? What did Eddie Van Halen mean to you as a musician? And if you have ever tried to learn to play music, Eddie Van Halen.
No, I didn't. I didn't, but I kind of followed. I was very late to the party with Van Halen. Very late to the party. Actually, as I got interested in Van Halen by the time Sammy Hagar was already in a bed. So it's Van Hagar. Real fans call it. Yeah, of course. So I was late to the party. So that was the first Van Halen experience for me. And then later on, I went back and heard all their albums with David Lee Roth and this whole thing. Yes, so I wasn't there from the beginning, but I know a couple of guys in the band. They were there from the beginning, so huge fans. I mean, he meant a lot. I mean, obviously, there's very few guitarists who have the same impact on rock music as Eddie Van Halen had. So absolutely.
Speaking about this, which is the hardest song technically to play in the Royal Hunt discography?
Well, I think probably it will vary from guitar to bass to drums to keyboards. For me, probably let me think. Probably something like Time Will Tell from Paradox. It's a harder one. That's just pops up in my mind. What else? There's a couple of songs a couple of songs on the Cast in Stone, which a bit tricky, you know. So, but generally fine. But it depends. For guitarists, it's something else, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
for me, personally, those.
This guy asks about keyboards. So your
Oh
own
yeah, this
personal
is probably
sound
maybe even like Sound Scream, maybe even
scream or
more than
tablet.
Sound.
Yeah.
So Sound Scream, yeah, it's a little weird song to play. Yeah.
If you want to describe Royal Hand to a person that hasn't heard of you, which song would you choose as the most representative?
I know. I mean, from the last album. I mean, actually, so I'll say the single we just put out, "The
The Art
Art
of
of
Dying.
Dying" from Dystopia. It's pretty much describes what we do, because of course you can pick up more complicated pieces. I don't know if it just represents the band that well, because we do have this part of the music, the different time signatures and key changes and this and that, more complicated pieces. We do have them. And at the same time, we have very simple songs from time to time, like Half Past Loneliness or something like that. And it's very straightforward. So we are somewhere in between. You know, so I think something like Art of Dying is probably a good example, I guess.
Why did you decide to release this album as you did in Cast in Stone through your own label, North Point? Over the course of years, you've changed numerous labels from Semaphore. I think you began with Semaphore Records.
We've been on a bunch of labels.
Years,
And, you know, by the time we were releasing Cast in Stone, we felt confident enough to start releasing albums ourselves, because basically the production company we have started working years before that and just doing parts of the jobs. You know, we were concentrating not only on music, on the videos, on promotional, or some extras on internet, whatever involved. You know, we were doing parts of that, but not the same, but not everything at the same time regarding one album. But by the time we were closing in on Cast in Stone, we felt confident enough so we could do it ourselves and control the entire process ourselves. And it worked fine. On Cast in Stone, I said probably we did a couple of mistakes here and there, which were corrected by now. And now we have about 5 or 6 people working on it. And great results. I mean, it's really great results. So we're happy.
Yeah. So Dystopia will be released in various deluxe editions. I checked the press release that you have sent me, and there are so many different editions, deluxe and very nice packages. Do you have faith in physical products, or do you think that streaming services will prevail in the end?
I mean, in the end, of course. But there will always be people who are just like me, who are interested in physical product. And now, all my life I was into LPs, vinyl, and then I kind of drifted away in the 90s. You know, everything was on CDs. And 8-10 years ago, I went back to vinyls again. And fortunately, now they became popular again, so I can actually buy vinyls again.
Yeah.
It's great. I love it. I love it. No, not every single album, of course, but the good ones. I'm picking the good ones.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, and so I think in the end, of course, the streaming and whatever digital will prevail and it will win, but there'll always be people who buy CDs or vinyls, whatever it is. And that's one of the reasons why we have, I'm not that involved in that part of it, but I know, I'm well aware we have different versions of the album.
Yeah.
Deluxe versions and some instrumental CD whatever it is, and some DVDs. I'm not sure, but there are different ones. I mean, so everybody can pick something they like. I mean, whatever, you know. So because it's always like that. You talk to fans at the gigs and stuff like that, and they're asking you, oh, well, so why didn't you release this and that? And you know, there's always some ideas. So because we're administrating the whole thing for North Point Productions, so we're in charge, so we can do whatever we feel like. So we're doing different versions, you know. If you want like a simple straight ahead CD, you can get that. If you want some extras, you can have that. You know, whatever.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah. So there's always demand by fans that can get something. They feel that it's their privilege to have something special from their favorite band. And
that's for us. It was a little bit of a drag, you know, when you're working with record company. Every time you start talking about some special editions or whatever you want to do, I mean, they're kind of in charge. You know, of course, you can ask or you can recommend to do something. But they decide in the end, you know, and how it will look like in the end. You never know. I mean, even if they'll be like full booklet, if it'll double CD, and if it'll be like a digipack or whatever it will be. Here we decide the whole thing, and we listen to fans. We're in touch with them all the time through the website, all the social media, and they're writing what they like, you know. And so it's much easier for us today.
Question arrived about the cover of the album. Where did you draw inspiration for the cover of the album, which, in my opinion, is great, to tell you the truth?
Thank you. We wanted to have a book. We wanted to have a book on the cover, and of course I started researching the old books. You know, it looks spectacular. You know, so I found a few examples. So when I was talking to the artist, I showed him the pictures. I explained what we wanted. You know, we wanted the book and kind of old style. There was corners and in metal or bronze, whatever it is, and it was supposed to be burning for entire book. And I think he did a very good job. Actually, it looked, when I saw it for the first time, it looks actually a little bit better than I imagined. Yeah. So, I mean, he's better at it, definitely.
So it surpassed your expectations.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one of the reasons I'm not the artist.
Exceeded, yeah. I guess that
he did a very good job, yeah.
I guess this artist cannot play keyboards like you either.
Okay.
So you're both artists. A question I can read now is: will you ever play or even record more songs from the period when DC Cooper wasn't in the band? He sounded great singing Lies and Total Recall. Total Recall would also sound good with him on vocals, says our friend over here.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't have a problem with that. DC don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
The only thing is, I understand fans, they have their favorites, and I've said it many times. I mean, the process of picking up the set list, it's getting more and more complicated every year. You know, because there's more and more songs, and so we have this kind of a system. So we're trying to pick at least one song from each album, as much as possible, at least one from each. But it's already 14 songs, so it's almost 2 hours.
You have to play songs from your last album. You have to play.
Yeah, of course, and you have to play at least 2 of them, at least.
Yeah, at least, and you have to play from the fans.
Yeah, and I wish we could play more, but you have to play some standards. You know, so you have like 3 pools of the songs. You know, the songs you have to play, and then you have the songs which fans requested, and then we have the third pool, is the hardest one, is the ones we want to play, and then the fight starts.
You come
because everybody has their own favorites.
Come with this.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh God, and it's endless. And then there's bargains there going on, you know, okay, if we play this song, you have to play this song, and exchange and the whole thing. yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So usually we end up with 14, 15 songs or something like that. And yeah, sometimes DC sings some of the songs. I mean, we did Lies, we did The Mission, we did Army of Slaves. So from time to time we do some of those songs which originally wasn't recorded by DC. He don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
But of course, we can play more of them, otherwise people start screaming, They want Last Goodbye, they want Message to God and River of Pain, whatever they want,
So we
So
have
it's like that.
we have a friend over here who says, we have answered this question, but we will tell him again. I have never heard of Royal Hunt before, and I'm watching this out of quarantine boredom. I'll give my to your music after the interview. Where do I start from? Which is the song? We have asked this question, and the song is "The Art of Dying," featuring
Go
Mats Levin.
Go on YouTube, you'll find it.
Yeah. So it seems like we might earn a new fan from this interview.
There you go.
Who hasn't
This is how it's done.
of Royal Hunt before?
That's nice.
Another guy, another girl. I think it's the first time that I've missed that. It's the first time I've heard of Royal Hunt. I just got the notification from this channel and I began watching this live chat. So it's 2 new fans, perhaps.
Hello. Welcome.
How hard was it to convince DC to rejoin the band?
It wasn't that hard. I mean, we spent so much time together in the 90s, hard. It wasn't hard. Our breakup was a little, unruly, but in the end, I mean, after so many years, we got older and hopefully wiser, so we talked back and forth, and DC wasn't doing anything at the moment. We didn't do anything at the moment. So we never planned to do any more albums or stuff like that. So it wasn't like the reunion thing. We just wanted to play a few shows. That was a basic idea in the beginning. It was, I believe it was 2010 or something. Because we wanted to, we were supposed to go on tour, but Mark Bowles, who's been with us as lead singer at the moment, he couldn't do that because he was preoccupied with Uli Roth, this guitar player. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of bored. We want to do something. And we had offers from promoters to go on tour. So I don't even remember who came up with this idea. So why don't we call DC and try to make a little tour out of it? I mean, he's not doing anything at the moment, and we have this opportunity to play some shows. So we called him, discussed stuff, and back and forth, and, believe me, the second he walked into this rehearsal room, it was like he never left.
Yeah.
It was just we just started where we ended it, like in the 90s. I don't remember when it was, like 98 or something. And it just from that second, it just continued. It was just so painless. It's very natural in a way. I heard stories like that before. I never believed them. So I said, I don't think so. It's exactly the same. It was exactly the same. There's absolutely no difference. And it was cool. So we did, and we never agreed on any albums or anything. So we just did the little tour. Everybody had fun. We came home, and then record company and management started asking, what about the new albums? It's okay, we'll talk to DC about it. How he feels about it. So he said, I'm in. So this is how it started. This was pretty painless, the whole process.
Which is the most annoying thing in music industry nowadays?
I mean, there are so many, but my main beef is the lack of professionals. Mm-hmm. A lot of professional people left the business because obviously there's not that much money in it anymore. And it goes through the entire line. It could be promoters, it could be journalists, it could be bus drivers, whatever. Like it's just like from A to Z. You know, it's everywhere. It's hard to find professionals compared to even late 90s or something like that. That's my main concern, I'll say. All of it, all the rest of it, streaming and downloading, whatever, it's like that's the next thing. The first thing is hard to find professionals. You know, backliners, good backliners, hard to find.
Yeah, I'm very glad you mentioned this, because most musicians blame internet and everything, but this is not the only part of music industry that has changed.
No. It started it. It started it because it started draining the music industry for money, and of course, professionals start leaving.
Yeah.
And that today we're sitting with the result.
Mike over here asks, would you change anything from your previous albums? Like photo sessions, recordings, production, record label, promo, song titles, anything?
Simple answer. Yes, everything.
That's the answer no one gives.
But it's, you know what? It's because I'm seeing all these albums in completely different light than everybody else. Yeah. Because most people, they're enjoying the album. They like it or they don't like it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I have completely different view of this album. I'm spending maybe a year with it. So when it's coming out, the last time I'm listening to it, and when I'm sitting in the mastering studio and doing like this final fine adjustments, that was the last time I'm listening to it. I never go home and listen to it again. That's it. That's the last time I'm listening to it. Then I'm sending it into production, and probably I won't listen to it for months. And then I finally do. I find everything wrong about it. Everything. The wrong songs, the wrong, I mean, everything. And, but on another hand, maybe it's a good thing. It's a good thing, you know, but by the time you're making the next one, you start thinking about it. So you're trying not to make the same mistakes, if there are mistakes.
Yeah.
From the previous one. So it's kind of motivates you a little bit.
Yeah. In your live shows, do you play the enhanced version that you have in mind after the recording of the album, or the actual recording of the album? Do you make changes, these slight changes in your sound when it comes to live situations?
Yeah. Sometimes quite a bit, actually. We were. I don't remember exactly which song it was. And all of a sudden, the part of the song's pretty sizable part. Live just didn't work. It was kind of dragging the whole thing. It sounded beautiful on the album, but when you're playing live, it became kind of mushy, you know. So we just cut it out. It was that simple, you know. So okay, that's the most drastic thing you do. You just change it. But most of the time, you adapt the sound of the album to your live show, of course. But I think we succeeded through all these years. I mean, we did well, I think. When I'm listening to our live recordings, I mean, they're pretty true to the album. So it's fine. We never had like a real problem with that.
Who is the musician that has changed your perspective about music?
At probably the beginning, when I was just answering this world of rock music. That was obviously the classic rock bands and stuff. And I remember, I mean, obviously John Lord, Rick Wakeman, partially Ken Hensley as well. And I'll say so. In the very beginning, that was the most drastic experience I had. You know, I remember listening to In Rock for the first time, and it was just like mind-blowing. I never heard anything like that before. yeah, so if I have to pick up single musicians, not bands. So probably, yeah, as a keyboard player
Musician.
especially. I
Of
mean,
course.
Rick Wakeman for his arrangements and finesse and progressiveness, and John Lord for his sound and general attitude. You know, because he changed the way keyboards sounded with rock bands.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
Yeah.
You know,
Of
so
course.
those two, yeah.
Let me. I have I had this question for many years about martial arts. Your instrumental song that ended up as entrance music for a Japanese wrestler.
A wrestler, yeah.
I think I don't know anything about wrestling, so it's Masahiro Kono, something like that.
Yeah.
Was it after Royal Hunt were big in Japan, or did this
No,
help the band be bigger in Japan?
he uh, he was starting out. It's hard for me to tell. I mean, how big he was at the moment, but he wasn't at the top at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't. He wasn't like a champion or something. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know much about wrestling either. But he heard the song, heard this instrumental, and he liked that. So he imagining walking on arena or stage, whatever it is, and playing this thing in the background. And so he got in touch with the record company we had in Japan at the time. They called me. I said, fine, sure. So we even did a couple of special edition for him, where we had to make a few changes, make it longer or more symphonic. I don't even remember. It was back in the day. Yeah, and he's been using it since for many years. And from time to time, I'm getting these notifications from this wrestling organization, club, whatever it is. And I'm getting this notification, and all of a sudden it's been used in some computer game and still something to do with wrestling. So it's very interesting and unexpected things.
Unexpected, yeah, totally unexpected. And I think in many live shows, it has helped you do a very special presentation of the band in the way that is being done in wrestling by DC.
And it's and the cool thing is, like, after all these years, I mean, the album came out in '91, and it came out in Japan, I think it was like '92 or something. Martial arts still the most sold sports single in Japan, and it's been almost 30 years. And now probably it's not sold, but I probably streamed. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
But still, until this day, it's fun.
How do you react to the reviews about your music and the comments on social media? Do they play any role in the direction of your forthcoming albums?
You know, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Yes and no. And I know when you're saying no, it sounds so arrogant.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, I mean, just imagine if we'll pick 10 hardcore fans. Royal Hunt will mean something completely different to every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
This guy will like it because of this progressive touch, this one because of the melodies, this one because of keyboards, the guitar, whatever. And they all have mostly different albums as their favorites. So if you start listening to people too much,
you lose it.
All of a sudden you lost. I mean, because you wouldn't know where to go, you know? So I prefer not to listen to it. Of course I do. And of course I might read a review in one magazine or online or something like that as a general direction. If people in general like the album or not, is it a successful one or not, just to have like a general view. But the particular review, be it good or bad, You know, I said, no, I'm not paying that much attention to it. Otherwise, you'll get lost. It's too many opinions out there, especially now with social media. Everybody has an opinion.
Yeah, everybody has an
You know,
opinion.
so I prefer not to.
Yeah. However, you have to
And
listen.
then again, if you think about it, I mean, if you do believe in a good review, when you have to believe in the bad as well, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have to.
Same thing, yeah.
So I prefer not to be bothered.
Before the end, can you tell us any funny story from the life on the road, from the recording, something to end this chat in a way more funny way?
I'll tell you a story. I told it not that long ago, and the reason I started telling the story was a little bit sad because Ken Hensley passed away, and I've been asked how much he meant to me, and I said, you know, when I started playing in bands, I was playing keyboards and guitar because I was playing different bands, and both like 50-50. And then a friend of mine gave me this live album, Uriah Heep, 1973. And I remember opening the vinyl, and there's this beautiful picture of Ken Hensley, and there's somebody probably took the picture from balcony, and he's like smoke and red lights and all these like various keyboards and mini mooks and stuff. And I looked at that picture, I said, this is what I want to do. So I switched completely to keyboards, but that's not the story. The story is actually we were playing a festival. I don't remember how many bands were there, but I do remember Ken Hensley was playing before Royal Hunt, and after Royal Hunt there's Europe. That I remember. So we were supposed to play at a certain time, and me and DC, we were on a plane going to, I think it was in St. Petersburg or something. So we're going there, and all of a sudden, when we just arrived at the hotel, the promoter called and said, you know what, instead of doing separate interviews, we're doing a press conference.
Yeah.
We're doing a press conference, so all the bands will be there, or the free bands. That's why I mentioned it.
Yeah, you're right. You and Europe, yeah.
Yeah. Those free bands will be there, and we'll do like press conference. There'll be like 25, 30 journalists and blah, blah. So we'll do it. Okay. We didn't expect that. We just arrived. So, okay, we met at the bar, had a couple of drinks, not drunk, but we were in this playful mode. I'll explain why it mattered. We were in playful mode. So we went there and
creating this story on my mind, yeah.
Yeah, and there's like this long table and all the bands sitting there. And then in front of you, you have all the journalists. So in front of each member of the band, there's a little shield with your name on.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think the girl who was like putting all the shields, she put Ken Hensley in front of her. Yeah. And I had this like dark glasses, like lemon glasses.
Yeah.
So I actually looked a lot like him.
Yeah.
And he was sitting like 5 meters from me. But I had the shield like Ken Hensley. So everything was well and fine. And then at some point in time, somebody's asking him a question. And automatically, because the shield is in front of me, you know, he's looking at me and said, Mr. Hensley, can you tell us about a little bit more about your set list tonight? And as I told you, as I was in this playful mode, so I started answering. So I said, yeah, of course, I'll play a few classics and stuff like that. And then DC was sitting like close to me, so stop it. So, yep.
And I have got some requests for the end to cut down on smoking, because music world needs you more than ever and as long as possible. This is the social message.
I'll do my best.
So before the end, because the stream will end in a couple of minutes, just let us know about the release date of the album. The new Royal Hunt album is called Dystopia. It's being released on the 15th of December.
On 16th,
16th.
in Japan, 18th of December
18th
in the rest of the world. And if you're interested in any different packages, versions of the album, deluxe edition, stuff like that, go to our website, royalhunt.com, check it out, take a look. We have like studio updates and lots of fun stuff there. So keep an eye on it.
And I can let the people know that it's definitely a Royal Hunt album worth buying, worth investing money on. It's great music. Once again, being a long-time fan of the band, I found it more than interesting. I really like the album, and I strongly recommend to the fans of the band. Thank you very, very much for this interview, Andre.
Thank you.
Wish you the best.
Thank you very much.
On your new album, and hopefully we'll meet again in your forthcoming tour, whenever it may happen in the future.
I really hope so, but thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much
for
for taking
listeners,
time.
Viewers, thank you.
Every single one of you for joining this Instagram chat. Hope you enjoy that. Thank you. Wish you a great evening, Andre. Thank you very much for that. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.